Let's draw a 60-degree angle. So the first thing I need to remember is that angles are pieces of circle. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the center of the circle on the page. I'm now going to put my protractor on the center of that circle. So it's on the dot. Now I have a decision. Do I use the left 0 or the right-handed 0 on the protractor? I'm going to use the left-hand 0. So I'm going to put a mark on the left side. Then I'm going to count up to 60. I'm going to put a dot. Now I'm going to connect the center of the circle to the 0, and I'm going to connect the center of the circle to the 60 degrees. I'm now going to label these two lines. I'm going to put arrowheads on. I'm going to label the piece of circle in the center. Now I'm going to put letters on the points. Notice how the B goes where the center of the circle is. That's important when we name it, because this can be called angle ABC or angle CBA. As long as B is in the center, because it's the center of the circle, that's how it can be named. I'm going to draw the 60-degree angle again, but this time I'm going to use the other side of the protractor, because I want you to see that either side of the protractor can be used. One side of the protractor counts from 0 up to 180 going clockwise, and the other part of the protractor counts from 0 to 180 going counterclockwise. So I go through the same steps. I need a dot. I put my protractor on that dot. I mark off 0 and I mark off 60 degrees. Okay. Again, remember, I'm using the 0 on the right-hand side, so I'm going counterclockwise. The first time I did it, I used the 0 on the left-hand side and I went clockwise. I'm going to move the protractor out of the way now, and I'm going to connect the points I put at 0 and 60 degrees with the center of the circle. Again, I'm going to label it, put my arrowheads on, label the piece of circle as 60 degrees. I'm putting letters on the endpoints. I can use whatever letters I want. In this case, I just chose A, B, and C. So this is angle ABC or angle CBA. Again, recall that B has to be in the center because B would be the center of the circle. Let's try and measure some pre-existing angles now. So I'm going to draw an angle here. And where the vertex is, that's where the center of the circle is. So in this case, point I is the center of the circle. I'm going to put my protractor on point I. But now I need to line up one of the zeros that I have. And if you look at it, my zero's not quite lined up. So I'm going to move my protractor ever so slightly so that the 0 is on. Now, because I'm using the 0 on the right-hand side, I have to count from that 0 around the protractor counterclockwise. When I do this, I end up finding out that angle PIR, or angle RIP, happens to be worth 125.5 degrees. It's kind of in the middle between some degree marks. Look, I can use the other 0 on the protractor and get the exact same answer, but I have to rotate my protractor so that 0 is at least on one part of the angle. This time I'm reading it clockwise, and when I do that, I have to make a slight adjustment here to make sure my 0 is lined up. And when I do that same thing, I end up with 125.5 either way. You can use the scale on the inside or the outside, but you have to zero your line. Let's try some drawings of our own now. Try and draw these. Pause the video after, and you can restart the video to see what the answers are like. Now you need to understand that these answers that you're going to see here were not measured with a protractor. So all you're doing is you're looking to see if your answers look similar to these. If your answers don't look similar to these, you are probably reading from the wrong 0. Now, yours could either look like the first example or the second example, depending on which 0 you use to draw. So 75 degrees looks approximately like this. 170 degrees, it's very close to being the full protractor. So your answer should look like this. If you were reading from the 0 on the right-hand side, though, your answer will look more like this. So let's draw what it looks like if you're using the right 0. In that case, your answer would look like this. All right, so let's take a look at 20 degrees. 20 degrees is a really small angle. So it's going to be very close to each other. It's going to be a small piece of circle. Okay, so it can either look like this one if you were reading from the right hand side, or if you were using the left hand 0, then it would look more like the second example. Don't forget, you can use whatever letters you want. You don't have to use the same letters that I'm using here. 100 degrees is a little bit more than 90. So if you're reading from the left hand 0 and you're going clockwise, it's going to look like this. Second example I've drawn is if you're using the right hand 0 and you're going counterclockwise. Either one's correct. It doesn't matter which 0 you use. Again, you can use whatever letters you wish to name them. I've just chosen X, Y, and Z here.